100 of our futures index. 10 ergs are angled up, looking for, we're still just within the 10-point range in the day. Or sorry, we're just over the 10-point range of the day. So we can look for 45-degree angle in the ergs and the bias. Again, the 10 ergs are up, conflicted 5s, 3s. Volumes just turn nicely. Can you maybe consider a volume tick ED? It's not quite there on that signal. It would have actually moved through. The one's coming in nicely, the one volume E. We lost a D just below the 2100. Wow, we're just moved through the 2100 and had the consolidation zone right around there, pullbacks. Been pushing through, bouncing off the other side. Notice the 2100 is kind of like a magnet zone, either our 2100 or the 2100 for the actual S&P. So watch for the bounce back up here. We've got a D, E, K, F coming up. It's bounced up already. Over 2 points, 2.5 points.
Yeah, that's a substantial move already. I want to see these scalps really, even a very few number of ticks of movement, even on the 144, that was well over a point and a quarter before seeing that first arrow. Consolidated slightly, but then just bounced right back up to this level here without really a stoppage or even a slight pullback to be able to consider the next arrow. Minutes are still agreeable. Conflicted 5s and 3s here, even 1s. The F just backed off. We almost had a volume tick EF, DEF, but the F just backed off. A little bit of a sideways consolidation in the 144 chart that we can see. Right up almost against that 0075 level, which was a bounce point there before, down to the 96.75 and back up again. That F starting to spike a bit. Not showing the spike here yet. At least in terms of the angle hold, we've lost the D, the E. So just have the volume and the tick here. Here's the F spiked E, F. If there's a white arrow, there's a white arrow just in our 317 chart that just came in out of that level, and just filled the tick there on that, moving through that 0075 level. Sharp E coming in as well now. Slightly flat on the tick, slightly flat on the volume, flashing that 3 minute toward green. So
point of resistance at 275.
Also, the trend line for the 10 or the 5 and the 3 downward.
Market seems to want to stay above this 2100, or at least use this as a bigger support level. It did go a couple of points below, but it's bounced right back above. Let's see if we come right back down to it here. The shorter term with the volume EK tick starting to turn.
Volume EKF. Tick F, if there's a red arrow. We do have our 3s perhaps turning underneath this, so this may continue to move this upward, but we do have the volume, the E, the K backed off. That top tick actually is a little bit flat. So we don't have 4 components yet. Volume EF. And the F is just backing off here as well. 3s after the 1006 replot starting to come in a little bit stronger upward. EK coming in upward here with the 1s. The E just backed off. Pushing a little bit higher based on this. Bottom 3 sticking in and out of 45 degrees here at the same time as the 1s are ticking flatter. Do have our volume tick. D, F is flashing in and out here. So we could very quickly come to a scalp downward. Volume tick D, the D is still very thick. Those 3 minutes again ticking upward, nothing to match that with at the moment. Volume tick E. Need to get 45 degrees coming on that F bias. There it is starting to show itself if there is a red arrow at the bottom of this range here. And it's coming close to the 0125 as a point of resistance. Nice F spiking down now. There is a red arrow. Do have that set up. Need to just watch for that bounce off the 125. We may not see a red arrow. Certainly bouncing off that. 3, bottom 3 backed off a bit. Volume DEF tick. And looking at this volume and this tick here for a while, it's just sort of hovered in this zone. So that could quickly change as we see the FL and now the E spiking upward. 3s have come in, but nothing to match that with. Nice A bias, but that bottom 10-minute not yet 45 degrees. We may come into a 10A very quickly, though. Again, now back to our volume DEF downward if there's a red arrow. Holding this trend line, this tick trend line upward. Lost the E. Volume DF. C's even slight. Volume DEF again. Downward if there's a red arrow. There's a red arrow. Right at the 175, which is a tick above our last point of resistance. There's a lower one, tapping on the 1 tick there. And quickly bounced against us there. Saw that F spike back and forth a number of times. Thought that one would have actually gone down. Did not. Lost the point and a tick on that.
E coming down. Ticks are turning at the bottom.
And DEF, but again, here's this culprit of a tight range here.
$150 support level.
DEF, nothing with our tick, nothing with our volume. Already had that arrow. That was a scenario where it actually just touched us out on our 5-tick stop and then came right back down for what would have been a
Successful trade.
Successful trade. So that is just one of the factors here with changing the 8-tick stop down to the 5-tick stop. We're going to have more stop outs overall versus an 8-tick stop. But when we get stopped out in the 8 ticks, that's a larger loss for a scalp. Tens are now 45 degrees, but we lost that A bias. B bias is also flat. 5s are still conflicted. 3s are up. Let's see if the volumes and ticks can turn now this time. Volumes, ticks starting to turn here. There is possibility of movement right up to that 03 level. Can adjust my scalp greater than 10-point range, can generally target the 2 ticks. We've been looking at 1 tick in those tighter ranges. Now that we're greater than a 10-point range, actually it looks like it's not pushing up. Our E, our F started to come down again. 1 have come down, 1 E, F. That's about all that there is there.
Coming within a few ticks of the 2100. 10 ergs longer term still continue to be up. Good information out of China today caused the markets to be up overnight around the world.
1 EK, the K backed off.
We had a good ISM manufacturing report this morning. And right now we also have
1 DEF. If there is a red arrow.
Fed Chair Yellen testifying before one of the finance committees.
E backing off a little bit here, as is the D. There was no arrow at any rate. We have moved down through that last 150 level now, about almost 2 points.
Bounced straight at the 2100, moved a tick through it, bounced straight back up.
When it turned around and took us out at the 03, it's actually come down now, almost 3 points from that level. We do have our volume DE, or 1 DEF, if there is a red arrow. Again, a little bit of consolidation. You can see in the 144 price chart. Starting to lose a little bit of the F here. Volumes, ticks, maybe turning a little bit more. Maybe they will gauge in here now. Ones have come down almost halfway. See the tick and the F starting to come in. K starting to come across. Again, the 1DF, the tick are up, 1DF downward, volume tick almost upward at 45 degrees. Top 3 minutes starting to curve a bit. against the little 3-minute trend line that's started to form there upward.
Tapping through the 2100 again.
1DF still. See the E starting to show a spike down, the 1 starting to curve now. This is a resistance more clearly forming in the 144. You can see it also in the 317. Volume tick. E coming in. Now let's see if the F can come in upward. There's the F beginning to come into 45 degrees. And if we see a white arrow,
2100's always been a psychological level for the market, either our 2100 or the actual index. Nice volume EK tick. No F, no arrow.
the F just backed off.
Bounced up a nice 0.5 very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We found in past times, sometimes the market just oscillates right around this spot for a while until it finally breaks out.
Coming close to a 3C, the top 3 minute, coming back up again.
175 was a previous point of resistance going up.
So we may be able to look at this as a 3C. Still haven't seen a first white arrow.
Still nice volume E, K weakening a bit. Top tick, F is coming in nicely.
3C is what we're looking at here. There's a white arrow, 175. Tried to get 150, but did not, wasn't able to change that entry that I put it in at. We will target the 1 point, but look for half a point of lock-in, giving it an opportunity to move through.
Top 3 is weakening a bit, so just keep your eye on that as well. We lost our C bias, Darren.
Okay, and just took 1 tick there. Managed to get 1 tick on the 3C.
May continue to move up, but we lose the strength of our setup. Had nothing to transition to. Still had volumes up nicely in E and F in the green.
Well, we do have volume tick DEF now. That actually is still there. That could have been, well, it's one of those question marks transitioning to a scalp.
It wasn't quite as strong as it is now.
Mm-hmm. Looking for an arrow. Here's an arrow that did just come in our 317. And can look to target 2 ticks because we are greater than 10-point range. But if you just target 1 tick, that would have opened up. We've got a question called a red arrow. If that did happen, and Greg, I'm just going to look to target 1 tick here on this. That was a mistake. We were looking for our 3C up, which would have been a white arrow. Sometimes your brain gets ahead of you, and I may have said a red arrow, or Greg may have said a red arrow, but we were looking for the white arrow there. And just filled that 1 tick on that scalp there. I did adjust it from the 2 ticks because it actually go on there, just popped through. It touched on it but didn't fill, or actually didn't even touch on it, but opened up at the 1 tick several times, and then I thought, okay, well, I'll take the
Scalps are meant to be a short-term push.
1 tick.
Sometimes when you don't get that immediate push, the strength of that scalp weakens. And it pushed, but it didn't push through. Someone saying we didn't mention a red arrow. They didn't hear us say red arrow. So maybe we'll go back and replay what we did say. But certainly we have been looking up here with the 3C. I may have said the C went red or flat when we were in the 3C.
That may have been it, yeah, but that was post getting into the...
Certainly appreciate your comments. Anytime you have any comments,
Well,
anything you're uncertain about, please throw them in the question box. And
Greg, we do have a little bit of consolidation. Well, the C just backed off. It actually came in stronger again at 50 odd degrees, but now it's just backed off. 3-1, but no C or D to aid with that. We do have a potential scalp downward. Volume D, that tick is not entirely there yet. The F backing in and out, so that...
Like the red K spiking, E coming down as well. And K backed off. Certainly appreciate your comments. Anytime you need clarification or want clarification, throw a question in the question box and we'll try to get to it as quickly as we can, or our support guys will maybe answer you privately.
Sorry, so volume tick EF, there was a red arrow that did come in our 144. We've moved down a little bit. I'm just going to target one tick in this case with us moving down, and we do have that point of slight resistance at 225. Volume tick EF. So we do have a 3-1 with the D upward. If we do get a white arrow, that would be a reason to...
Well, watch that one erg. It is cresting at the top.
That would be a reason to transition from this downward trade to the upward trade. But now, as you say, it's flattened even more.
Still have
May
the
still
volume
come back
tick
down here.
EF coming down.
Again, the point of resistance of the 225, even the 2, which is the reason why I'm just targeting the tick here at 225. If we had had that arrow, that entry possibility at 03 or 275, might have just targeted the 2 ticks, or even the 1 tick, as 250 is also now a bit of a bounce point, and it's now bouncing again in this little bit of a range. And 3s are still strong. Let's see if something comes in with the C or the D. Again, reason to get out of this trade is either we get our profit target out, or we get an opposite scalp in the upward direction, or we have a bigger setup. Nice C that came in with this 3-minute flattening at the 1024 3-minute replot.
D has slight angle down. Volumes and ticks haven't turned yet.
E and F,
We're still in this
the F still down,
consolidation. Yep.
volume still down, tick still down, as you say with the D.
If we break the 225, we may actually make another run to the 2100 again. But this is a consolidation. We are at the bottom, our target of this zone. E's gone into red, so is the F.
Tapping on the 1 tick now. As it's starting to wane, well, it filled the tick. I was going to suggest maybe even targeting the 2 ticks, but filled on the 1 tick there.
It's bounced off here, this range, a few times. That strong CB came in stronger on the 5-minute candlestick plot. Nothing to pair with that. We did bounce right back up here, Darren.
Yeah. So it was a tick gain in that lower part of that consolidation range. Maybe seeing a little bit of change now in our volumes. Our E, our F may come in right back up again. Again, that top 3-minute is now flat, though that C bias is quite nice looking. Interestingly, we transitioned from strong 3s to a strong C, and had previously had a weaker C, strong 3s, now weaker 3s and strong C. at that last 1024 replot. See our volumes perhaps starting to turn, but our tick F, E still downward. A tick potentially at the bottom of its range. EK started to pop in a little bit, but did not produce anything. Volumes did turn. We had a little bit of a spike in this range. 1018, 1019. So we've been about 7 odd minutes in this tighter range here. Again, nothing to pair with those 10s that are up very nicely at 45 degrees. Tick EF coming in downward. That D was not there for the fourth component on that last, although it was an arrow in the 144 and the 317 pretty much at the same time. But again, just slightly off, and quite honestly at the bottom of that range, I'd like to get something maybe in the middle of the range that's just moving toward the top or the bottom, which is what we did somewhat have the last time. We had a couple of ticks of leeway at the bottom. One tick of leeway at the bottom, which we eventually did fill. 3 starting to turn a little bit more clearly. That strong C bias has changed on us at the 1027 replot. So we might be coming into something downward. We do have the C down, the E down. 1's maybe starting to turn. So this may be inching its way to break on the lower side here and begin to come down again. We have the 3-minute and the 5-minute trend line upward that could be a bit of a resistance. 1 DEF. We did have a red arrow on the last 144. I'm not sure that it was all entirely there at that point. So 1 DEF, 1 CDEF right now. If we see another red arrow,
gain the 2100 will be a significant point of resistance.
volume EK upward, possibly the F.
K backed off.
K backed off, but volume still upward. F angling up, not the tick yet. There's the E. Volume EF upward.
L's coming in, green L. Point of resistance 375.
Almost there with the tick, but not there.
350 has been a point of resistance as well. This whole area 325, 350, the top end of our consolidation zone the last 10 minutes.
And yeah, exactly 10 minutes, 11 minutes here in this zone.
Did push through the bottom of it a couple of ticks.
So we have the ticks coming in now upward, tick F, but the volume turned down a little bit. And we have the 1's down with the C. So, and then the F just changed on us now. See our 5-3. 5's have just turned, sorry, 5-3, 10-5. A and B are down. Again, our 3's in a zone where they're trying to turn down. So we're going to be in this little consolidation range until something takes priority.
C bias.
1 DEF right now. If there's a red arrow.
As well. was a quick drop down of 2 points. We sort of did the very same thing. We came to the bottom, then went up to the top, then came right back down.
Yeah, you want to see those, an arrow come in before you have that full kind of drop there. See the threes are both turned red now. 1C, F.
Green K is coming in upwards.
Yeah, EK potentially upward with the tick and the F. Sorry, tick and the E and the volume. So tick E coming in upward, volumes as indeterminate, ones are down. Still in this zone here.
Again, Fed Chair Yellen is speaking to the House Financial Services.
Volume tick EF. We had a white arrow that did just come in on the 144. If I can get the same level, even within a tick, that's about all that I'll move. There, we did get the tick worse. Just targeting the 2 ticks here, it actually may fill the 2 ticks. And as we hover here, just going to take the 1 tick at 325.
$375 point of resistance tapped through to the 4. B bias is flattening now. It was angled down. This move up is starting to flatten.
And would have filled those 2 ticks eventually there. Just bounced on it several times and several opportunities of the 1 tick. Just ended up taking the 1 tick.
Do have a 10-point range in the day, so for our setups, we're looking for 45 degrees on the ergs and biases. But given we're in such a tight range, not trading within that full 10-point range, we're just in a consolidation. If we start to open up, maybe we can target and hold on to those scalps a little longer. We've had this tight consolidation, so I like to take profit when it's there.
Tick. Well, our 10.5 is now coming in with a slight B bias. We would need to see a pullback. We've seen several arrows here on this little bit of a rise through the 04 level. We'll need to see a pullback in relation to that. There's another point of resistance around 575 from yesterday afternoon.
B bias angling up now. Strong D bias. We got a pullback. We could consider a 10.5. A bias is still flat, even slightly angled down, so no setup 10 consideration. Breaking through the top part of this point of resistance, the consolidation zone we had, moved up 1.5 and could continue moving up to the high of our morning, even yesterday's high, 10.25, 10.50. Would like to see a pullback before we do consider a 10.5.
Slight indication of a pullback here in this move down from the 525. At the same time as we have our volumes and our ticks moving down, still thick D, E, and F, and that may hold us in this level.
As we're coming back, that B bias is weakening.
There's a nicer pullback here. Come back 525, almost, well, basically a point and a quarter.
Volume tick E, K, F, K backed off, but the E and F biases are deep in the green.
Well, E and F are actually not as deep as what you would suggest there.
They were a moment ago, and then they've just moved down. D is still deep as well.
You come down almost a point and a half, well actually a point and a half, with the turn of the volumes and the ticks here off of that high. So in terms of a scalp downward, we have moved down substantially already in the course of those volumes and ticks turning, the E and the F coming down to where they are now. Look for this as a pullback in relation to our 10-5 upward. As you see, that B bias certainly in this pullback is softened somewhat. But if we push back up again, that can be a nice push-up move through this level up to that 06 level, and beyond that we have the high of the morning and the 10-minute trend line at around 08, 825. Again, greater than the 10-point range, we can look to trail, but again, looking to lock in that, in this case of the 10-5, the 1-point level. Someone's pointing out the C has come in as well. It is spiking nicely to the 45 degrees for a 5C, underlying the 10-5. Do have the 5 minutes angling down. We do have the volume tick EF coming in again downward. So this may push down a little bit further on the basis of that scalp information. And let's look for the move back up again here. Looking for a white arrow upward, 10-5 with the B, 5C.
Shorter term 350 is a support level going upwards. Point of resistance going down in just the last couple of minutes.
Still have that volume DEF tick downward. It's almost a 2-point move off of that high, 525. Of course, of the 3 minutes turning as well, but that C bias still green and angled up. It's lost its 45 degrees, but we still have the 10-5. Ultimately looking here for these smaller charts to begin to turn back up again. Looks like this may actually move down a little bit further here. Volume tick EF. This is a scalp downward. There was a red arrow. Just looking for a tick of gain. And just filled the one tick there. We are looking for the bigger setup upward, so it already moved down, as I say, basically 2 points. So just out of that little mini break, just targeted the one tick on the volume tick EF and secured that one tick there, Greg. And we've lost that B bias, so no longer the 10-5, no longer the 5C. We actually are starting to move downward here, at least in this interim period, unless we get some angles back in the A, B, or C.
Close to 3-1, 3C, 3D.
Yeah.
But we have, as you say, moved down.
Back into that zone that we were in
points,
for the longest time.
Still continuing to push down here. 3 ticks above the 2100.
So we do have the 3C. We have moved down. We will need to see a pullback. Actually, we did get a white arrow on the 144 price chart. I'd like to see also something develop in our 317, even a consolidation sideways. And a little bit of a sideways consolidation, as I say, in the 144 with a white arrow. That gives us some indication of a pullback. We're coming up against another point of resistance in terms of the 2100 and that 99.75. So still want to see something clear as we come against that potentially stronger bounce point. I'd like to see a stronger pullback here, even with the ticks and the volumes turning. That may give us that, and it may not, but we will look for that stronger pullback given that point of potential stronger resistance. Even on the minor side, would have liked to have seen something on the 144, even at the 01 level, and didn't see an arrow there, red arrow there at all. So top 3 minute after that 1042 replot looks like we lost well, it's actually still there. And again, we've come down certainly the 1.25 already without even seeing an arrow from that minor break point of 01. So
Let's see how much we push below this 2100. It's been a bounce spot. Earlier we went down as far as 96.50.
again, we've almost had a straight line move down here through that major point of resistance. It's been a 6-point drop. I definitely want to see a pullback here, Greg. Some suggestion that we just take the next arrow, but coming up against it, 98, another point of resistance. So unfortunately, we're just seeing the strength of the 1s and the 3 turn here, and wisdom would suggest that we look for a definitive pullback and not just try to look at maybe a weaker consolidation thing. Someone's pointed out conflicted 10s. Yeah, they just went conflicted. Still have the base 3s though.
5s just went conflicted with that new 5-minute candlestick plotting. Still strong 3s down. No biases supporting them, although the biases are deep in the red. Coming right back up to the 2100, see if we push through. We've got a volume D, well, conflicted 10s, we can't consider anything. with those last arrow come in. But let's just watch to see how it progresses. The one's turning. A nice green J attack coming in. But we're at the 2100. I've got a question here as to why the tick chart shows green for most of the recent drop. The green you're seeing on the tick chart is the ergodics. The ergodic moving average is a complex calculation, almost trying to predict where the market could go. Whereas the bias is based on a moving average of buyers versus sellers. So the ergodics are what we use for trying to possibly predict where the market could go in the shorter term or longer term, and we combine that with the ergodics. So it doesn't necessarily reflect where the market is and what the market's doing. That's part of what makes our charts that we follow special. A nice red K attack coming in.
Tens are out of conflict here now. Strong B bias, even strong C bias upward. 1 C E F. We have come up 3 points off of that 98.50 low that we hit. See that as a result of, even though we had conflicted tens, that was a result. There was many arrows there that were good on the setups. If we see another white arrow here, there's a white arrow that did come in just in the
317
317, thank you. And I managed to get 175 and just then filled the two tick. My first opportunity was a fail to send order, and I had to do it again, and in that situation had to drop down another tick. Was able to get a tick better on that. The 10s, one of them, the bottom one, still 45 degrees. The top one might be slightly off, but almost there. That B bias may be nice as well. So let's watch.
The B bias was strong. It just weakened a few moments ago. And we were waiting for that 10 erg to come in. When that 10 turned back to green, it wasn't quite 45. So we are halfway approximately between our recent low and our recent high, which again can be a decision point, a shorter term decision point. See the volume's turning nicely with the E coming down, K backed off, F coming down, red L attack crossing. One D upwards, nothing to pair with it.
Volume E almost, volume EF almost downward. See what happens here.
Volume EK came in stronger.
We may see these threes turn. Let's see what happens though. Volume EK. So if there's a
and we'll move down 2 points already, right to the 2100, or tick off it.
That volume tick EF came in super sharp there. Those ones may be turning in behind it. And the F has gone a little bit flat. Could have another push down based on the volumes and the ticks, and even the 1 minute turning in behind it. Volume E tick. Looking for that F to angle down and a red arrow to come in, if that does transpire. We have 99.70 and just drop right down to 99.75. A little bit of a consolidation at the 2100. Looking for a red arrow, but we have movement down to 98.50, or at least possible movement down to 98.50.
Yeah, that was a bounce spot last time.
And there was an arrow. It was just a little bit, no, it is our, still looking for it out of that 00 level, so just look to target a tick on that. Did get the tick there at that 99.25.
Just being careful right around this 2100 mark. We saw when that initial arrow came in, we had a quick pullback. Right now we're pushing down below it.
See our 5 starting to turn, which could be the real culprit behind that. Those 3s, the bottom one, may be coming back to 45 degrees. We will need to see a pullback, potentially a bounce off of the 98.50. We may have a base 3 or even a base 5. That A bias is now down at 45 degrees. Had a previous white arrow there on the 144, slightest of pullbacks. Starting to see that top 5 minute tick down. Certainly have A, B, and even C bias all nice, with the 1s and the 3s in behind that.
Further weakening, there's a red arrow on the 317.
Yeah, and still like to see a pullback here, Greg. We had the first white arrow, even arguably up there at the 99.50 level or even the next one, if you would consider that green candlestick a pullback in the 144, and this wasn't the first red arrow for a base 5. Starting to see almost a scalp upward here with our volume E, the K just backed off. This certainly is giving us a little bit clearer of a pullback here, losing a little bit of the top 5 minute, as that 3 is starting to turn as well. So everything's just not lining up here. 1 E, F almost there. Again, almost a 2-point move already on this scale.
Coming right up to that 2100, we'll see if it bounces through it or if it bounces off of it. Bounced off that 2100. Coming right back down.
That 5 is now coming back down again. If there is a red arrow in terms of our 5AB in the 144 or the 317 price chart, we do have the 3s, 1 turning green, so that is something to watch for. The C still red, even angled down a bit. Our 98.50 is still very much a potential bounce spot, even though we did hit the 98. We have 10 seconds until our 10s and 5s and 3s replot. Let's see if it changes the dynamic of things here. No, we still have the 5A, 5B. No red arrow. Wow, and the market's already dropped 3 points, almost 2 points. And no red arrow, so it's already moved down beyond our 5 tick or so move of wanting to see that arrow on that particular move down.
Coming close to the low of our morning, when we get further away from that 2100,
we may see a scalp here instead.
We may see a bigger drop too.
Again, the scalp has already moved down the same distance as what we were looking for, the base 5. Going sideways here a little bit. Again, we wanted to see that arrow in around 98.50 or so. It's already almost 2 points down. We do need to see some kind of pullback here. Again, as you say, the low of the morning, 675. Certainly a potential bounce spot.
We are near the low of our morning. We pulled back 1.5. We can break through the low. We can have a bigger drop.
Going sideways here, and as you say, a little bit of a pullback to 98.25. Our ticks are angling up. Not any clarity in our ones and volumes.
5A. We can look for the next arrow.
Yep, I know. Just pointing out the fact that we are in the middle of a pullback here. We could see the 10s turn in behind this and overshadow this as well downward. Our 3, the C bias is still down. 3 is not really turned fully yet, but there also could be a bit more of a bounce up off of this before there's a bigger move downward. EK coming in upward tick, EKF almost there. And a series of arrows already.
D came in strong, even close to 1D with the EK backing off.
5 minute going conflicted, so our scalps on the threshold here of not looking at them.
You mean 10 minute going conflicted?
Yes,
5 minute?
I did. Okay, yeah. 10 minutes. It's flashing on us. Lost our B bias. A bias softened slightly here in this move up. Ones have turned, as you say, 1 volume tick F. 10 minutes are agreeable. So we could have a scalp upward here. And the 10's going conflicted. So just watching that here, we have pulled back 2 points off of that 675. 5s are still down. That A bias is still there. So still looking for a red arrow after that pullback.
EK down, coming down to support this. With a possible F bias down.
We may still have to wait for more of the smaller charts to finish their upward movement.
Red K backed off.
And A bias is flashing a bit flat as it ticks up. A coming back in again as we tick down, looking for a red arrow. Right against the trend line.
10 minute trend line as well. as the 144 tick trend line.
Another bounce, ones, ticks coming back in again upward. Culprit over a move up here. Still looking for the red arrow.
Sharp EK down coming in. This is our push.
Yes.
That came in very nice. The D as well. There's no arrow.
No.
There's an arrow, the 317.
Look to target a point, or look to lock in a point. Sorry, certainly wanted to see that arrow well before that break, but we can still see this move down here through the 1 point level, even locking a tick possible.
And a tick opening up, right at the edge of a possible drop.
Yeah, again, the nicer part of that drop already happened. Let's see if it can move through this little 144 consolidation here. B's getting stronger, A's getting stronger. Those 5 minutes are there. The 10s may be turning in behind this. Again, if I can move through the 525, I'll lock in a tick.
Shorter term EK coming up with the F. E and F are still in the red, so maybe just be a shorter term pullback. Fives continue to be down nicely, as well as the A, B bias, the thick C, C red bias, red C bias.
Coming back to this 525 level. Again, if it does break down, I will lock in a tick. Hit touch on the point level. B bias coming in again stronger. 10 minutes both going red now. I move through this 95. I just target the full 3 points, 93. There, we've moved down through that level. Going to hover over the 1 point at the 95. A little bit more aggressive would be just to maintain the tick and see how far it can move down.
You can move your target down. Lock in 2 ticks. Of course, depending on where one's target is for the day, you can lock in your your
I
point
just
target.
took 1 point there as it came back up again.
Lock in your point target for the day. Certainly consider doing that. Those are more aggressive. Certainly lock in a tick or 2 ticks.
We lost the B bias and softened a bit on the A as well. So
And if you would have locked in your tick, you would have been out as we pulled right back up to 95.75. So let's wait for another pullback.
yes, it would have taken me out of the tick down or tick lock in.
Lock in, yep.
So we are in the throes of a pullback.
Grabbing the point there was certainly better than a tick. Of course, there's more conservative, more aggressive strategies. Still have nice fives down, as you say. The A is weakening. B is no longer there. It's even starting to angle up. We have pulled back 2.25 points from our low. Just starting to push down again, backed off 2.25 points from our low.
And we're looking for the next red arrow again on the 5A. See the ones in the volume starting to show signs of turning down.
Another EK down supporting this with a D. It's nice to see.
There's a red arrow on the had to just take the 475 level, tried to get the 5, and it started to fill up, and took the 475, and then it actually would have filled the 5 there a moment later. But nonetheless, looking again with the same strategy in mind. In fact, actually, sitting at 7 ticks, my ultimate goal here would be 92.50, and that would give 9 ticks for the 4 points on the day. But we need to move through 94 here first of all. We see 92.50 as the next sort of bigger level just above our trading ladder on the screen on the 10 minutes. Can move down through that, touched on 3 ticks. If we can move through the 94, that would be a nice opportunity then to again lock in the 1 tick and see if there's potentially a bigger drop down, and again ultimately hover over that 1 point. See the ones turning down. D, F, E still in the red. Did touch on the 1 point, no opportunity to lock in, probably no opportunity to even set and forget to have that filled. Of course, if you had gotten the 95, that would have certainly filled on the set and forget at 94. Looking for some agreement on the smaller charts. Right now they're all conflicted, spiking in and out here and there. See the ticks have both turned green. Slight angle up now forming in the C bias. That may be signaling a turn in the 3 minutes. EK spiking upward. Softened on the A bias here, and going to have to consider exiting here, just looking to get out. With the softening A, just took a point down, tried to get 3 ticks down, but it just wouldn't open up there with that softening A. In fact, we're coming into almost a scalp upward here.
96.25 is a point of resistance going up. Continuing to push up through here.
We have ones C, E, volume almost here. Up against the 997.25 level. Our top one starting to fade. Volume's still there. Volume D, tick. That's about it. So that was the ones and the volume and that pressure upward there that manhandled our base 5.
Let's watch this possible EK down. Just weakened. We still have our 5 ergs down. We don't have anything to pair with them at the moment. But given you talked about the 97.25 being a point of resistance going up, if we bounce off there, 10s are green, 10s are red. That A bias could come back in quickly. Let's see what happens here.
D angled up, E angled up. Ones, 1DE. There may be an F upward.
Lost our E, lost our D as the F came in. Right in the edge here.
The 97.25.
Yep. We're going to push up resistance to the 2100 again, or are we going to bounce back down to our low? D angling down sharply with a possible red K attack.
We
A and B starting to angle up.
Can see the ones begin to turn. At the moment, they're not.
Close to a green G and H attack cross. We do have to get through this 97.75.
It is the 5, 10, and even 3-minute downward trend line here. Still thick E bias, even F, which is maintaining us up here at this level until that dissipates. May time with the 1 minute's turning. So we have a D, E, F downward, K, D, E, K, F. See the one starting to turn. If we see potentially the K just backed off, D, E, F. You see one of those ergodics come in if there's anything downward. Meantime, our 10 minutes have gone conflicted, so now we cannot look at those scalps, one of the 5 minutes is flattened, and so we don't really have anything here at the moment. Looks like it is pushing up, and we may ultimately see these 3 minutes turn, that 3 minute go green. Ultimately, we've seen the 1 minutes come in stronger and that move up. Now the 3 minutes come in behind it. Someone's mentioning conflicted tens. Yeah, I mentioned that about a minute ago or so. 30 seconds or a minute ago. 10, 11, 21 plot on the 3. We saw the C bias go angled downward. So that was starting to incline nicely, and it's backed off. Do have the D, the E, the F spiking, but again, conflicted tens. That bottom 3 minute is not yet 45 degrees. It's close. The D is spiking. As was mentioned, it's just backed off. Three minute has now come in strongly, so let's add bottom one. So let's watch here. If there is a B, a C, a D, or even the ones that angle up sharply at the top, is a little bit precarious. In the 96.50, 96.75 level, the ones were starting to turn red, and now they've started to turn a bit again, while our volumes, our ticks, all move down. The only thing we look at is this base 3 here, and again, just slightly off on the B, certainly the C. D is flat, ones are flat. D is now angled down. So we do have the 3s up, but at the moment, nothing parable. 1 minute, one of them is red. Did have volume tick DEF. One's now turning into this C down. Of course, we have conflicted tens, so those last couple of arrows, certainly that first arrow, even though it had dropped down quite markedly in the 144, certainly would have picked up a tick or so, but it had already dropped down through that 97.25 level where you wanted to see something. Regardless, the 10 minutes were conflicted. .3D may be coming back in again upward. Let's watch for that. It may time with the volume starting to turn up. There's the challenge of the ones angled down and in the top part of their range. That D is not yet 45 degrees though, so and that bottom 3 minute now is softened. So again, we're not looking at anything. Can observe these scalps downward. One volume tick F, E, C, a little bit of a pullback, and it may produce something downward, but conflicted 10s and 5s. Minutes now flashing out of conflict. And we have one tick EF. We can see another situation where we have a red arrow, one F tick. Volume slightly starting to turn here. So maybe the extent of these smaller charts in terms of that move down from the 98 level. Nice angle on the A is returned, but of course no longer have the 5s. B also looks like it has a nice angle, softening a bit on that top 3. We have one tick F, D, we may see a potential scalp here, a little bit of consolidation in our 144 that we can see in this level. One tick F. See if the E or the D can angle down again. That F went flat on that last arrow, so not there yet on that. Actually, the 3C may be spiking in again upward. And that could be interesting. Top 3 minute flashing back to angle. C bias coming up. Again, it could time with the volumes and the ticks turning. And that 3 minute going into red. So we have our F again angling down, 1D. That's about it. We may see the E angle down. And we had a drop through that level. Nothing really to speak of. Well, don't even really have the E either. We have 93.75 as that last low. We've oscillated basically 5 points up from that and now come back down close to that again. EKF starting to come in upward.
With the green J.
K backed off, still have the F. Volumes turning. Top 3 minute again starting to give angles, so just not a whole lot of clarity. Let's watch
green
for the clarity.
5.
D, F.
C backed off. Top 3 went red.
Lost the F as well. Went conflicted in our 10s again.
That last candlestick.
Yeah, 5s and 10s, both of them had gone red. Now they've gone conflicted at the 11:30 mark, even the 3 minutes.
We are just above the 2100 of the S&P. And where we are down around the 91 area, we're right around that 2100. We saw our 2100 was a psychological level. Obviously, the market has its own as well, too. They're the actual index, I should say, not the market. We're all trading in the market. So over the past half year, different times we've been around this level, we've noticed a little more chaos in the market trying to figure out if it wants to bounce back up or push down through. So we'll just let this play out, wait for our strong setups. Of course, seeing conflicted 10, 5, and 3, even now 1 ergs. Just above the 2100 on the S&P index.
Most ergodics are all conflicted, 10s, 5s, 3s, and 1s.
It is a point of resistance. If we break through here on the downside, we could push down 2, 3, even 4 or 5 points quickly and have a bigger drop. Or, being a hard resistance, we could bounce. And I think that's just being reflected in the ergodics. Some of the trending sometimes isn't as strong at these points of resistance or these psychological levels. It's like a compass, having a magnet near a compass. Still conflicted 10s, watching the EK up come in with the F, the tick. This may give us an indication of a shorter move. Let's see if it actually can break through the 95. It's pushing through, it pushed through by a couple of ticks. Okay, backed off. Came right back down. Sometimes that happens, you'll push up and then came right back down to the 2100 on the S&P. We're breaking through that now, Darren.
Yeah, just no clarity on the ergodics, unfortunately. But
no setups for us. It was interesting to see that EK volume tick, even the F moving up sharp the way it did. It pushed up 5 ticks and then very quickly turned. There was no arrows, just watching the patterns. So now that we've pushed through that 2100 on the S&P by a few ticks, even a point, we'll see if we bounce back up now, because that that has been a pattern in the past, can start to develop more momentum down. Here we are bouncing back up.
Interesting in our scalps, 1 EF tick volume. Not anything in our conflicted 10 environment, but there was an arrow, now a second arrow in 144. But good to see there's just so many strong components right now in the smaller charts. That's not a surprise that it does move up even to this trend line, despite the conflicted 10s, 5s, 3s.
EK backed off, still the one volume tick.
But again, conflicted 10s,
Conflicted
so we're just
10s,
observing.
yes. Yep. And we're just above that 2100 on the actual S&P index. Right at the 5-minute, even 10-minute trend line, as well as a tick trend line. If we can start to push up, we may move back up a few points here. Don't have the feed of Yellen's meeting going on, but it was considered a high impact event on Forex Factory. Oftentimes when she testifies before the House Finance Committees or the Senate Committees, can be moves in the market depending on things that she says or past Fed chair people, Bernanke, Greenspan. Here's that push up here, Darren.
Yeah, C, D, E, F, one tick volume.
Starting to see the smaller ergodics come into nice sine wave pattern.
Pressing against the 5-minute, even 10-minute downward channel line, trend line. See the 3 minutes coming into green, 1139 replot. A little bit clearer on those 3 minutes, not 45 on the top one. However,
Just holding at 96. S&P is a 1.5 above the 2100.
1140 replot there didn't produce anything noticeable change in our 10s and 5s, so the A bias and B bias are angled up nicely.
Still are at the 5-10 minute trend lines.
That top 3 minute looks like it's almost at 45 degrees, and as I say that, it started to waver flatten toward the red again. Just at the same time as our ones, volumes, and even ticks begin to show signs of turning down, right at that point of possible bounce around 96, 96.25. So let's keep our eye. That 3 minute has come back in again upward. Certainly flashing on the flash upward is at 45 degrees for both of them. Could have a 3B upward, potentially.
C is flattening, even angling down.
Yeah, now again it's gone red, so here's
Volume
smaller charts now.
EF.
So your smaller charts now committing a little bit further downward.
DJ.
Again, conflicted 10 environment, so not anything here, but we see the patterns forming in the smaller charts downward with the turn in the ones, the volumes, the ticks.
Coming to make a run of the 2100 on the S&P index.
EF downward, K attacking across. And we just don't have anything opportunity-wise here. You can see more particularly in the 5 minute, even in the 10, from about, I guess 11 o'clock, we've been in this tight range. Did have the move up to 98.50 and move down to 93.50, but for the most part we've been 94 to about 97 in that about 45 minutes worth of time. Holding the 10 and the 5 and even the 3 trend line, more particularly the 10 and the 5 downward. See the smaller charts starting to turn down, so that may provide some of the immediate push to again begin to move downward. Again, 10s are conflicted, 5s are conflicted, 3s are conflicted. We really don't have any clarity or opportunity here. Interesting, just as soon as we saw that begin to move down, now we're seeing an EK spike upward with the F. And it actually looks like it may try to push through the top or toward the top again. So just not a lot of real directional thing. Of course, the ergodics are displaying that as well with the 10s, 5s, and 3s as they are.
Okay, within a tick of the EK just backed off. Came within a tick or two of the 2100, and this is a little bounce up. That's of the S&P index. We don't see that on these charts because this is the futures, and the future tracks the S&P index. We always trade at a discount, well, almost always trade at a discount to the time value. Volume EK coming down now. Again, just watching the pattern.
D angling down as well. Conflicted 10 still, but seeing a volume DEF. And we see the 94.50 as that last point of resistance, just moving through that. Interesting, did see an arrow on the 144.
Coming right down to the 2100, the S&P.
did see a red arrow on the 144 at the 94.50. That did move down several ticks very quickly. Just observing, but you could see those all components begin to build as it came close to that level. 93.50. Again, the low of the morning looks like we are going to attack that. With our smaller charts building momentum to break through that. May see the threes turn into this. If we do, it probably will be after a break through that 93.50 if it does do that. Had immediate pressure on the volume of the tick turn and the ones brought us from the 95 through that 94.50. And then for the moment of bounce. Bottom 5 looks like it's flattening, may turn green. Bottom 3, flattening, may turn red. Really no direction in the 10s at the moment.
Right at the 2100. A few ticks below, a few ticks above. Or even not even ticks. On our futures, we track things by quarter point movements. On the actual S&P, it actually does it in a decimal system. So there's 100 increments, 100 things in a point. So I guess it'd be 100 basis points on the index, pushing right back up, bounced off that 2100.
Interesting. Let's keep our eyes. Our 5s are turning. 5C may come in here.
5A even?
Yeah, 5A. And bottom 5 still just a bit slight, and we will need to see a pullback as we have moved ultimately from 375 up to almost 675. So 3 points of movement. Definitely will need to see a pullback.
Of course, moving through this 96, might not get one. We'll just continue to take a run up, possibly, well, 98.25 or even our 2100.
Yeah.
The market couldn't get through the S&P 2100, so it's bouncing.
Again, another 97.25 point of resistance here. And then above that, 98.25. Certainly have the 5 minutes now at 45 degrees, that bottom one. We have a 5A, 5C. Let's look for some kind of pullback or even sideways consolidation starting to develop in our 144 chart. And if we, we see a white arrow here at the slightest of sideways consolidations in the 144. See the tick still angling up, ones turning, volumes turning. Lost our A, but still have the 5C on that 1150 replot.
Coming up to another point of resistance at 98.25.
Here's another indication of pullback. More so as a consolidation that's been extended from what we were looking at initially. See our 1 minute starting to turn down a bit, but the volume is still going to have a good amount of cycle ticks potentially at the top here. So let's see what happens. The only thing we're looking for is a 5C if that continues to be there. We have 15 seconds for 3 minutes to provide a new plot, which may change our C bias.
EK down, coming in.
Conflicted tens, though.
DEF is deep in the red, just watching the pattern. Aware of the tick trend line.
And we lost our C bias, as we suggested may happen at the 11:51 3-minute plot. So 5 minutes are there. Let's see if something can match with it.
May come all the way back down to our 94, which is right around the 2100 of the S&P. Tried to break up. Now we'll see if we go down and try to hit it again. As we used to say back several months ago, we like it when the market breaks out of these ranges. Whenever it's around the 2100, it's a significant psychological level. We used to call it it's almost like a magnet. The market hangs in there.
Let's watch for that B bias to come to 45 degrees. It's sitting around 30 at the moment. Fives are certainly there, very sharp upward, almost 60 degrees in terms of the 5 minutes. That B bias now coming close to 40 degrees. Did have a pullback. And Greg, we're almost on 45 degrees with that B bias. Let's see if this times well with that bias angle and a first white arrow.
B is a little less than 45, just needed a tick in a bit more.
Mm-hmm. B's gotten a bit flatter here. Still may ultimately be a push upward, but our smaller charts have gone conflicted and or red. Bias angles have come down, though still green. So there still could be a push upward, but let's watch for it. Let's watch for that B bias angle. It's coming back toward 40 degrees. In fact, it's almost at this level, almost 45 degrees. 97.25, even 97.50 probably will be where that is. $11.55 replot, we lost the B. Similar as we did lose the C on the, it was 11.51 replot.
tapping the 96.25, even down to 96. 95.75 is our recent. We're tapping that now. A nice EK, DEK, conflicted tens. There's no arrows. Still a point above the 2100 on the S&P index. Normally we don't talk about the S&P index much, but given its significance here today, you can see our last hour or so we've been oscillating around that 2100, which is our 93.50 to 97.50, 98. It's pretty much oscillating around the S&P 2100.
Oh, under our last almost 30 seconds here, I don't think there's going to be a change at all.
40 seconds.
Yeah, I said 30 seconds almost.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Particular.
Give you a hard time.
So I think we'll probably just be in our wrap-up in terms of our totals here.
Sounds good.
A pretty light day in terms of opportunities. Certainly even our last opportunity was probably 40 minutes ago. Just been in conflicted tens and even fives up until recently, threes as well for the longest time. And as you mentioned, just oscillating in this broader range of about 4 odd points and around the 2100 S&P level. So that's just kept us really with no trending, no indications of momentum, at least anything that produced usable setups. So our scalps, our net today was half a point up on the scalps. 3C, we were up 1 tick on 1 trade. 5A, we were break even on 2 trades, 1 point up, 1 point down. And that puts us at net 3 ticks up today. You can see that there on the ladder at the bottom right-hand corner. So again, scalps up half a point, 3C up a tick on 1 trade, 5A break even on 2 trades. So mostly scalp weighted today.
And the 158 we lost a point. Actually, we tapped on a point. Interesting as well too. The market did move in that direction. Just didn't fill. Well, thank you. A little repetitive, but it is sincere. You do add a lot of color commentary, although your language isn't colorful, so that's a good thing. we are in a tight range, as you mentioned, and as we've mentioned most of the morning. If you are on this afternoon, continue to watch for nice angles on the ergs. The bias is 45 degrees. Practice on your trading ladder. Get away from this 2100, either the S&P or even our 2100. The market could start to trade in bigger ranges. That's what we've seen in the past and come into nicer trending. So hopefully over the next throughout the afternoon, we'll break away from this spot and come into some better ranges tomorrow. Have a great afternoon, great morning.